Fashion is often treated as something superficial, but in the case of Donald J. Trump, fashion tells a deep, continuous story. His hairstyle, suits, posture, and color choices are not random. They evolve with his ambitions, struggles, confidence, and power. When you compare old photographs of Trump with his recent appearances, you are not just seeing a change in clothes, you are witnessing the transformation of a man, his mindset, and his public identity. This is a long, detailed, and engaging story of Trump's fashion evolution, from a young New York businessman trying to prove himself, to a global political figure whose look became instantly recognizable across the world. The beginning, a young man searching for identity, 1970s. In the early 1970s, Donald Trump was not yet the symbol he would later become. He was young, ambitious, and standing in the shadow of his father, Fred Trump. Old photographs from this era show a man who is still experimenting, not only with business, but with how he presents himself to the world. His suits during this time reflect uncertainty mixed with aspiration. They were often looser, wider, and influenced by the trends of the decade. Earthy colors like brown, beige, tan, and muted gray were common. The lapels were wide, the trousers flared slightly, and the tailoring was functional rather than sharp. Trump dressed like many other businessmen of that era, trying to blend into elite circles rather than dominate them. His hair was darker and more natural. There was no dramatic volume, no carefully sculpted forward sweep. It was side-parted, slightly messy at times, and looked like the hair of a young man who had not yet realized the power of visual branding. Personality-wise, old photos from the 1970s show a Trump who appears eager and alert. His posture suggests ambition, but not complete confidence. He is learning, watching others, absorbing how powerful men dress, move, and speak. At this stage, his fashion reflects a man trying to become someone, not yet a man who knows exactly who he is. Rise of confidence, the loud power of the 1980s. The 1980s changed everything. This decade was about excess, visibility, and unapologetic wealth, and Trump fit into it perfectly. As his real estate empire grew and his name became more prominent in New York society, his fashion evolved into something much bolder. Old photos from the 1980s show Trump in double-breasted suits with strong shoulders, thick fabrics, and dark, powerful colors. Navy blue, charcoal gray, and black dominated his wardrobe. These were not subtle outfits. They were designed to make him look bigger, stronger, and more authoritative. His ties became wider and more colorful. This was the period when red ties began appearing more frequently, symbolizing dominance, energy, and control. His shirts were almost always crisp white, creating sharp contrast and a clean, commanding appearance. His hair also changed significantly. It became lighter in color and fuller in shape. The volume increased, and the early version of his iconic swept-forward hairstyle began to form. This was not accidental. Trump was beginning to understand that consistency in appearance builds recognition. Personality-wise, Trump in the 1980s looked fearless and aggressive. His fashion communicated success before he even spoke. Compared to his earlier photos, he now appeared like a man who wanted to be noticed immediately upon entering a room. His clothing said, "I have arrived." Pressure and reinvention, the difficult 1990s. The 1990s were a challenging decade for Trump. Financial difficulties, bankruptcies, and heavy media criticism forced him into survival mode. This internal pressure showed clearly in his fashion choices. Old photos from the early 1990s reveal a more restrained Trump. His suits became less flashy and slightly slimmer. The exaggerated shoulders of the 1980s softened. Colors became more conservative. He still dressed formally, but the tone was more serious and defensive. His hairstyle became more controlled and intentional. The comb-forward style was now clearly visible, and maintaining a consistent hair look became important. His hair color appeared more uniform. And grooming became a priority. This suggests a man trying to protect his image during a period of vulnerability. In terms of personality, Trump in the 1990s appears guarded. His expressions are tighter, his posture more rigid. His fashion reflects caution rather than celebration. Comparing old and new photos from this period shows a man who is fighting to maintain authority, even when circumstances threaten it. A new stage, television fame and the boss image, early 2000s. The early 2000s marked a major turning point. With the launch of The Apprentice, Trump reinvented himself as a television icon. This era transformed his fashion into a carefully controlled uniform. His suits became sharply tailored. Dark colors dominated: navy, deep blue, and charcoal. The fit was precise, projecting professionalism and command. He almost exclusively wore white shirts, reinforcing a clean, executive image. This is when the long red tie became a signature. It was worn lower than usual, drawing attention and subtly signaling dominance. The tie was no longer an accessory, it was part of the Trump brand. His hairstyle reached its most recognizable form. The swept-forward, voluminous look became consistent across all appearances. Heavy styling ensured it stayed the same under studio lights, outdoor wind, and constant cameras. Personality-wise, Trump now looked fully in control. Old photos from before this era show experimentation, new photos show certainty. His fashion was no longer about trends, it was about identity. Approaching politics, consistency over experimentation. 2010 to 2015, as Trump moved closer to politics, his fashion choices became even more consistent. There were no surprises. No dramatic changes. The same suits, the same ties, the same hairstyle. This consistency was strategic. Repetition builds familiarity, and familiarity builds trust, or at least recognition. Compared to his earlier years, Trump now appeared disciplined and calculated. His personality during this period seemed confident and unapologetic. His fashion suggested that he did not need approval. He had found a look that worked and saw no reason to change it. The campaign years, fashion as a political message, 2016. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump's fashion became a political tool. He dressed like a businessman, not a traditional politician. His suits were formal but not elite-looking. His red ties became symbols of strength and authority. Occasionally, blue ties appeared, signaling unity or calm. Every choice was intentional. Comparing old photos from the 1970s to campaign-era images shows a dramatic shift. The young man seeking acceptance had become a man projecting control. His personality, as reflected through fashion, was bold, confrontational, and confident. The presidency, tradition meets personal branding. 2017 to 2021, as president, Trump adopted a more traditional look, but he never abandoned his personal style. His suits were impeccably tailored, his colors conservative, his grooming precise. His hairstyle became slightly neater, with less exaggerated volume. His posture appeared more formal. The visual message was leadership, stability, and authority. Old photos from decades earlier show ambition and experimentation. Presidential-era photos show responsibility and symbolism. His fashion now represented not just himself, but an institution. Post-presidency, the power of familiarity. After leaving office, Trump did not dramatically change his look. The same suits, the same ties, the same hairstyle remain. This refusal to evolve further is itself meaningful. It reflects confidence in a fully formed identity. Trump's fashion has reached its final stage, not because he lacks options, but because his image is complete. Old photos versus new. What the evolution really shows, when you compare Trump's old photos to new ones, you see more than style changes, from uncertainty to confidence, from trend following to brand building, from ambition to authority. His hairstyle became more controlled as his public image grew. His suits became sharper as his power increased. His personality, once searching, became fixed and unapologetic. Conclusion: fashion as a life story. Donald Trump's fashion evolution is not about luxury or labels. It is about visual storytelling. Each era reflects a chapter in his life: ambition, dominance, survival, reinvention, leadership. Old photos show a man becoming something. New photos show a man who believes he already is. In Trump's case, fashion is not decoration, it is identity, strategy, and legacy, stitched together over decades.